Retirement can be strange in a way. Nobody really prepares you for. It is not always the free time that hurts the most. It is the silence. The silence where coworkers used to be. The silence where small conversations used to happen without effort. The silence where you once felt needed, included, expected. And after a while, you may start wondering something deeper than, why am I so lonely? You may start wondering, where do I belong now? If that is where you are today, this message is for you. Because rebuilding your social life after retirement is not really about becoming more outgoing. It is about finding your way back to connection without feeling foolish, invisible, or like you are forcing your way into other people's lives. A lot of people think retirement feels lonely simply because life gets quieter. But that is not the deepest loss. The deepest loss is that retirement often removes the structure that used to connect you to people. When you were working, there were built-in conversations, built-in reasons to show up, built-in places where your presence mattered. You did not always have to plan connection. Much of it happened naturally. Then retirement comes, and suddenly the days are yours. But they can also feel empty in a way you did not expect. Even if you have family, even if you have neighbors, even if you are not completely alone. Because being around people is not the same as feeling connected to them. And that can be one of the hardest parts to admit. Not, I need more to do, but I miss feeling part of something. Many retirees do not just miss people. They miss who they were when people still needed them. They miss having a reason to be called, a reason to be included, a reason to be remembered in the ordinary flow of life. And there can be a quiet shame in that. You may want more connection, but you do not want to seem needy. You may want to reach out, but you do not want to feel rejected. You may want to be invited, but you do not want to look like you are waiting around for someone to rescue you. So instead, many good people do what they have always done. They stay polite. They stay independent. They stay quiet. And underneath that quiet, the loneliness grows. If that sounds familiar, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not failing at retirement. You are grieving a real loss. You are adjusting to a life where the old pathways to connection no longer appear on their own. That is painful. And it is human. But here is the good news. You do not need to rebuild your entire social world all at once. You do not need a busy calendar. You do not need a dozen new friends. You do not need to turn into the most outgoing person in the room. What you need are a few real points of connection, a few social anchors, people, places, and rhythms that remind you that you are still part of life and not standing outside of it. That is where rebuilding begins. Not with pressure, not with performance, but with small, steady ways of belonging again. The first step is to stop judging yourself for needing connection. This matters more than people realize. Because if you secretly believe that feeling lonely means you are weak, or that wanting companionship means you are burdensome, you will make yourself feel ashamed for having one of the most human needs there is. Connection is not childish. It is not dependency. It is not failure. It is part of being alive. You do not age out of needing warmth, conversation, and a sense that your life still touches other lives. So before anything else, tell yourself the truth. I am not asking for too much. I'm asking for something human. That matters. The second step is to think less about making friends and more about creating regular contact. For many people after retirement, the idea of building brand new friendships feels heavy, too formal, too awkward, too uncertain. So do not begin there. Begin with regularity. A weekly phone call, a church group, a walking group, a volunteer shift, a familiar coffee shop, a senior center class, a weekly breakfast with one person, a standing visit with a sibling, neighbor, or former colleague. Why does this help? Because connection becomes easier when it stops depending on courage every single time. When something becomes part of your routine, you do not have to keep putting yourself out there from scratch. You just keep showing up. And showing up, gently and repeatedly, is often how belonging returns. The third step is to stop waiting only for people who used to know you well. This is a quiet trap for many retirees. They hope old relationships will naturally return to the way they once were. Sometimes they do. Often, they do not. Not because nobody cares, but because life drifts. People get busy, families change, health changes, energy changes. So yes, honor the people from your past. Reach out when it feels right. Send the message. Make the call. Invite the lunch. But do not build your entire hope around old closeness being restored exactly as it was. Some of your future connection may come from unexpected places. A neighbor you have only waved to, someone at church, someone in a class, someone else who is lonely too, but just as hesitant to say it. Sometimes the people who become important in this chapter were not the central people in the last one. And that does not make the connection smaller. It just makes it new. The fourth step is to make it easier for other people to say yes. This can change everything. Instead of saying, we should get together sometime, try something simple and specific. Would you like to have coffee next Thursday morning? I'm going to the farmer's market Saturday. Want to join me? I've been meaning to call more often. Would Tuesday afternoons work for you once in a while? Specific invitations are kinder than vague ones. They remove guesswork. They reduce awkwardness. They make connection feel possible instead of abstract. And if someone says no, try not to turn that into a verdict about your worth. A declined invitation is often just a declined invitation. It is not proof that you are too old, too late, or not wanted. Please remember that. The fifth step is to look for places where your presence can matter. This is especially important if retirement has left you feeling less useful. Because loneliness is not only about missing conversation. Sometimes it is about missing significance. You want to feel that your presence adds something, that someone is glad you came, that what you carry still has value. This is why service, helping, mentoring, welcoming, and volunteering can be so powerful. Not because you need to stay busy every moment, but because being needed in healthy, natural ways brings life back into the heart. You may have wisdom, patience, practical skill, a listening ear, a calm presence, a lifetime of experience. Those things still matter, more than you know. And the sixth step is to accept that rebuilding may feel awkward at first. That does not mean it is wrong. It simply means it is new. There is a difference. Many people quit too early because the first few attempts feel uncomfortable. The conversation is a little stiff. The room feels unfamiliar. The timing is not perfect. You come home thinking, well, that was not easy. Of course, it was not easy. You are trying to build new emotional pathways in a season of life that often receives very little guidance. Give it time. Not every contact becomes a friendship. Not every group becomes home. Not every effort becomes meaningful right away. But some do. And often, the people who eventually feel connected again are not the ones who were fearless. They are the ones who stayed open long enough for something real to grow. So, if retirement has made your world feel smaller, quieter, or more distant, please hear this clearly. You're not invisible because your old routines disappeared. You are not less valuable because fewer people call. You are not too old to matter in someone's day. And you are not weak for wanting companionship. There is nothing embarrassing about missing conversation. Nothing shameful about wanting to feel remembered. Nothing small about longing for a place where your presence feels natural again. This chapter may require a different kind of connection than the one you had before. But different does not mean lesser. Your social life does not need to look busy to be meaningful. Sometimes it only takes a few steady connections to make life feel warm again. A person who checks in. A place where people know your name. A routine that brings you into the world. A reason to leave the house that is tied to people, not just errands. That is not a small life. That is a connected life. And it can be rebuilt. Slowly, gently, honestly. If this spoke to you, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What do you miss most after retirement? The people, the routine, or the feeling of being needed? And if you know someone who has seemed quieter or more withdrawn since retiring, share this with them. Sometimes what people need most is not advice. It is the relief of hearing, this change is real, and you are not alone in it. And if you would like, stay with this channel. We talk here about loneliness, purpose, family, grief, and what it means to keep feeling fully human as life changes. Because no matter your age, you still deserve connection, you still deserve warmth, and you still deserve a place in the world that feels like yours.